I'm late. Well, that's not working. What's up, guys? Sorry for that technical difficulty. I was trying to get it on my laptop so I can see the comments, but apparently it's not like Facebook Live where you can shoot it on your phone and then check out the comments on the computer. Because it's hard for me to see questions on my phone. I haven't set up the laptop yet. I thought I could do it tonight, but time ran out. So as questions come in, just go ahead and if I don't see it, resend it again, and I'll try my best to see how far we can take this. All right. So first and foremost, I want to say that my heart is extremely heavy for what took place last night in Las Vegas. It's been a really dead day at the shop, and it kind of sucks. So, like I said, prayers and love to the families and members of everyone that was there, who were not there, who know people who were there. So, apologize for the bad connection as usual. I'm going to open up the door real quick so we can get a better connection. Let's see if that works. So, sorry for the bad connection problem. I don't know why I'm on Wi-Fi. But, so we will start off, from you guys who are first time being here, Ask MD Live is a place where on my website you can actually go to the drop-down box. And the drop-down box allows you to fill out a questionnaire about your motorcycle. Alright, it says name, model, where you're from, what kind of mods you have on the bike, and what's going on. And that allows me to then filter them through my email, because I get so many every day and throughout the week, that I want to bring them to a place where I can bring you guys value still, and we can all kind of learn. I've had a lot of cool success from even just the last episode of it, and it's just really, really cool. So hopefully this stream evens itself out, and it's not telling me that it's a very bad connection, and it finds its happy place somewhere like over here, maybe. Dun, 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 dun. Live feed sucks. One day I'll figure this out for you guys. So, can you guys see me right now? Is there a problem with the feed? Let me know in the comments if it's getting better or if it's worse. But like I said, on my motorcyclemd.com page, there's a spot for you to fill out a questionnaire about your bike, send it to me, and then I can kind of isolate them down to a place where we can talk about them live. Alright? I apologize for the horrible feed. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm excited about tonight. We got some awesome questions to go over, and thank you all you guys who are chiming in and hanging out with me again. Try to leave all your questions that you have towards the end. I'll open the floor up and just kind of talk to you guys. So, our first question is from Eric. He has a 06 Honda Shadow Spirit 750. It's got 30,000 miles on it, which is awesome. He's out in Dallas, and he's got a couple of mods to the chain, sprockets. He's got a timing mod. He's got some clutch upgrades and stuff like that, and as well as a carb tuning upgrade, carb jet kit. But it has nothing to do with any of that. Alright, so his question is, hey Cody, I love nearly everything about the Honda Shadow bikes, but I've always had a problem in one area, the chain. My chain is always dirty no matter what I seem to do. It is either dry and dirty or wet and dirty. What solution and or tools do you use to keep chains clean? And is it really that important to keep the chain all that clean? Thanks. Great question. Alright. There are three things that I use. If I see a chain that is extremely dirty, I don't clean every chain that I touch. My chain is probably relatively dirty, and dirt is a normal thing, because when you use chain lube, grease, whatever you're using, that's going to attract the dirt as you ride. So that's a very normal thing, man. It's nothing abnormal about a dirty chain. When it gets to the point where the links are no longer visible, where you can see the individual links throughout the chain, that would bring my concern, and that's when I would clean it. But if you can still see the links on it, then I would leave it alone. It's not that big of a deal. Lubing it is more important than me cleaning it, in my picture. There may be some discrepancy of people who may not agree with that, but I don't care. That's what I do. Now, the products that I use are from Honda. I don't care what you use. That's just what's easy for me to get from the shop. But there's a chain cleaning. Let's see. I'll grab them for you actually. So here is a chain cleaner from Honda. Alright, this stuff is awesome. You spray it on, let it sit for about a couple minutes, and then just rinse it off with a hose, and you'll be amazed at how clean it gets it with the hose. Let that dry, alright, and then come back with any kind of chain lube. Like I said, I'm not selling Honda products, I'm just telling you this is what I use. Chain lube, this is with white graphite. I like to see the lube that I'm putting on it, as well as a stuff called Blue Tack. It's amazing stuff. Super, super sticky. It's hard to even get it off with gasoline. Honestly, it's great stuff. So, chain cleaning is not as crucial as you may think. But if it is dirty, you got cake all up inside the front of the sprocket area. All that, you know, I'm sure you guys have seen like a really built-up pile of junk. So, if you can no longer see the links, obviously it's time to clean it up. And then you can use a toothbrush if you want. You can go as far as you want. This stuff, you just spray it on and rinse it off, and it works great. So, great question. Alright, the next one is from Daniel. Alright, he has a 81 Honda CB650, and it's bone stock. Alright, his question was, I'd like to mess around with pod filters. I really like the look of them. There's a crankcase blowout hose on the top of the engine that goes into the stock airbox. What can be done with that hose when I switch over to the pods? I'm not sure if the crankcase requires negative pressure or not. The biggest mistake that you could make is just simply plugging that up. Alright, I got coffee this time. So what's up? The biggest mistake you can make is just simply putting a hose with a screw in it. I've seen it done. It's not good. You have to have some kind of ventilation. Honda does that so that the best way to put it is they can use that air again, that pressure of air coming from the crankcase, to be reused, alright, to lower emissions. And sometimes you can get like this nasty molasses, milky, oily substance that people find all the times in the bottom of their air box, which is a totally normal thing, and think it's a huge deal and their motor's back pressuring oil. That's not the case. That's a place for it to collect so that you can then clean it out via a drain at the bottom of the air box. Alright, it's called cleaning the crankcase breather hose. That's what it's called in the manual. That's what it's called in every maintenance tune-up that we do. I'm pretty sure every bike has it, unless you're getting really, really old on me. But don't plug it up. What I would do, what I've done on my bike, because that also has two vents, one at the bottom of the crank, one at the top of the valve cover. You can, if you're going for that style, you can run a hose kind of down towards the bottom of the bike and just let it go to the ground. You didn't hear me say that? You can put a filter right over top of it. Where that little spigot comes out, they sell those cheap little cool colored filters. Like, they look like pod filters, but they're not. They sell those, and you can put that on there and make sure you keep it clean. Otherwise, it'll start dripping oil down. Eventually, when you get the motor piping hot and you're running it all the time, that can happen. What you don't want to do is to route it somewhere to where the rear tire can pick up anything that would possibly come from it. Then that's now unsafe. Okay, so to the side of the bike is ideal. Just not right underneath the rear tire, you know, because then you're just putting oil on your tire, which is not cool. So, great question. Thank you for that. Alright, let's go to the next one we got. This one, I don't know. Oh, wait. I do know. His name is Simon. He's got an 84 CBX 750F. Hey, mate. Just wanted to say your videos are great, very handy. I rebuilt an 84 Honda CBX 750. It's basically a stock engine with an open exhaust and pod filters. I've matched the jetting for those modifications. I was wondering if it is worth running AV Gas LL100 race fuel. My compression ratio is 7.3 to 1. Built the bike for the Geelong Revival in Australia. It's the Australian equivalent to the Goodwill Festival of Speed. Sorry, I'm not familiar with that, but no, it's not required. That's actually, I would consider that a lower compression. A high compression is when you're getting to like 10.5 and up. But that's a huge conversation to have with people who are way smarter than I am. There is no real like, oh, that's low compression and that's high compression. Alright, there's no one there to say that. But that's a normal compression for motorcycles. I would not consider that high compression, and it would you might actually be doing damage if you run a race fuel. Even if it's pod filtered, even if you have a jet kit for it, it doesn't matter. The compression and how it all responds inside of the cylinder could be detrimental. Because if you have an explosion going on after it should be taking place, then that's when you can start having problems and lack of power and detonation. So, great question. I would stick with mid-grade, or if you want to run high test in it, you can, but mid-grade would be fine, honestly, unless your bike calls for high test. Alright, so for you guys just tuning in, thank you guys so much for hanging out. I'm going to answer like maybe 2 more questions, and then I'm going to leave the floor open to you guys, and we'll go from there. Alright, so the next question is from John. Man, my back hurts from sitting in this seat. Ugh. I'm gonna grab a comfier chair. Alright. Well, I'm high now. Yeah. Alright, so John from Sweden got a 1985 Honda VF 1100C. 14,000 maybe miles, I don't know. He said, "Hey Cody, my bike got very hot all the time, so bad that the camshafts were damaged. My dealer told me. I had to replace all the camshafts," he said. "They were not in good condition. They were not in bad condition, but I decided to change them anyway, so I did. Question. I'm sorry. So I changed all the camshafts and tumblers on my bike, but still getting very hot all the time. Note, the temp meter does not give me more than 4 to 5 blocks. I guess that's how that meter reads. So that seems okay. However, the engine block is extremely hot, very hot. When I spit on it, it sizzles. What can be the cause of this? Did everything by the book, aka Climber's Manual. Thanks for your support and keep on. Regards from dark and cold Sweden." So, John, I believe that model has the radiator up front, and they also have, this is the first thing that comes to my brain. Alright, they have a radiator up front, and they actually have a valve to the side of it to allow you to shut off coolant, so that when you had to get to the valve covers, or you had to get to spark plugs, or it's for some reason, I think it's to like pull the carbs or something like that, they allow you to shut the radiator off to move it out of the way and not lose all the coolant inside of it. If that's true, I would check the valve, make sure it's not off. That means that no coolant is flowing anywhere, it's just staying all inside the radiator. But it sounds like there's like a blockage. Either the radiator is just so corroded on the inside, something's going on with the thermostat, or your hose piping for the coolant is clogged. Something is obviously not right. A water pump is sheared and is no longer pumping any kind of, you would actually probably hear that, so that is probably not it. But something is stopping the coolant from actually being flowed from the radiator into the motor and then back out again. Possible clog, rust, like I said, that valve being shut. I feel like you would have known that though, about the valve thing, because it's pretty apparent where it's at and what it does. But that's not good, obviously. Motors don't like to be extremely hot to the point where you can spit on it and it's sizzling, and you've ruined, or the motor's ruined camshafts over it. So you got to figure out if there's actually flow going through everything. Drain all the coolant out, fill it all the way back up. Maybe just dump the radiator out. Put some distilled water in it, and put some dye in it, like some blue or something like that, or something crazy, and then run the bike and see on the other end if that blue is making it all the way through by the water pump, where you can also drain it out into the frame. I can't remember exactly, like the Euro bikes and the US bikes are different, but they're kind of similar. Now I believe that is a lot like the VF 1100 here, where you can drain the coolant at the frame as well. So obviously coolant's not flowing in a positive direction for your bike. So that's what I would check, is flow. Alright, thermostat, make sure that's not all rusted and junk, all that stuff. Alright, so the very last question that I'll go over. Again, thank you guys so much for hanging out. I'm going to leave the floor open after this question to answer anybody's question that they have. Alright, so if you ask one during this, I didn't read it because I'm trying to do this. So, Chris from Maryland, he has a 06 Honda Shadow VT 600, 13,000 miles. He's got some risers on it, some drag bars, and some mirrors. Alright, despite having a new battery, if I don't ride every day, the battery dies. I'm wondering if it's due to the regulator rectifier. Is there an inexpensive fix, and if so, what's involved? Thanks ahead of time, Chris. Fantastic question, Chris. There's three things that take place with the charging system. There's wiring, there's stators, and there's regulator rectifiers. Those are usually the three components that can go bad. Alright, so the regulator rectifier's job is to turn AC voltage, which is a wild current coming from the stator, alternator, whatever you want to call it, and turn it into a DC voltage for the battery to be used, or so the battery can use it, because batteries can't use AC voltage because it's too sporadic. They need a streamlined voltage, amperage going straight to the battery so we can charge it. That is the rectifier's job. So the regulator rectifier is all in one unit on the newer bikes. Regulator makes sure that the battery is not being overcharged. Okay, the regulator regulates voltage to the battery so that it's not cramming all this voltage into the battery, overheating it, and setting it on fire. It shunts it either to ground or wherever the system allows it to go. So the regulator rectifier, it could be a problem. I've seen regulator rectifiers fail in a number of different ways internally. There's no visually good way of seeing how they fail because it's sealed. But I would first, a couple of things come into play. A, how old is the battery? I know it's super simple to say it's probably your battery, but it's probably your battery. That's the easiest thing to go over first. How old is the battery? I'd say if it's more than 4 or 5 years old, I would definitely get it checked out. And you need to identify if the bike is actually charging by itself. Like, is it with a battery that is above 12.4 volts, which is considered a charged battery? Anything below 12.4, hypothetically, is considered a dead battery. Just so you know. I know it's crazy, but 12.4 and below is considered a dead state battery. Even though you can charge them up to around 13 volts and then they're good to go, that's not an ideal voltage for motorcycles, okay, below 12.4. So if your battery is stationary in the bucket at like 11 volts or 12 even, you probably have a battery issue. So check the battery out. I have a video on my channel here that says how to check your charging system on your motorcycle. It's super easy. You need a voltmeter or what are they called? A multimeter. And you're just going to check VDC, volts direct current, at the battery with the bike running. Rev the bike up to around 3,000 RPM, and you should see a spike or a climb in voltage that you're reading on the meter, positive to positive, negative to negative. If the battery is too low, 12 volts and under, and you're trying to charge the battery by revving it up, it's not going to work very well. Like, the idea of having a dead battery and going and taking it for an hour drive to charge it up is going to make it all right is a false accusation. It's not. That can't happen. All right, so make sure your battery is fully charged. Check to see if it's charging. There's a video on YouTube that I have, how to check motorcycle charging system. It's super easy. And then if it's not charging, I have even more videos for that on checking the stator. Make sure that's not grounded to the frame or anything like that. And if you need to go further into the regulator rectifier, there's that too. I would not jump straight to the regulator rectifier. That is a problem that I see all the time. It's like a shotgun approach of people saying, oh, it's not charging, it's the regular rectifier. Then they replace it and they go, oh, I spent $160 on a part. That doesn't work. It's because, boom, to hopefully try to fix it. All right. So that's a great question about your charging system. Make sure it's charging first before you start replacing parts. All right. And that's it. So questions can take place now. I'm gonna try to read them. If I don't get to it, just ask it again, and I'll see if I can't grab it on my little phone. I try to pull up on a laptop to get questions, but it's not working out too well. But first time builder here. I have an 81 Suzuki GS550. How do you replace fork oil? There's no bolt or valve at the top of the fork to remove cap. Drain plug at the bottom. Usually, if it's a telescopic fork, there's a bolt on the bottom. All right, that you would need to use it like a manual impact driver. That's what I use. One of those ones that you hit with a hammer and it breaks the bolt loose. Put the fork in a fastened position on a vise or something like that. Manual impact driver. They are amazing. You should always own one if you work on bikes. It's probably some kind of Allen bolt, like an 8mm Allen bolt, 6mm, something like that. And lefty loosey, righty tighty. Give it one good whack with the hammer. That should take the bolt out of the bottom. And if you wanted to, if you're not replacing the seals, which I would suggest you do, then you can just simply pump the oil out from the bottom. But what I would do is there's a dust seal. Take the dust seal up. There's a circlip inside. Take the circlip up, and you can pull the whole fork apart that way. If it's not coming apart and your clip's out and the bolt's out of the bottom, slam the two things together and hammer them apart. And then there you go. You have a fork that's completely disassembled. And that was an explanation in about 20 seconds of a telescopic fork. I tried. So hopefully that helps you out. You would also fill it from the bottom as well if you have no top cap, which is very rare, but that's how you would fill it. Usually they have top caps because they have to get a spring in there somehow. But, which is actually false because on my 450, no, there's a bolt up top. There's a bolt up top. So yeah. Any more questions? 23 minutes in. We're making great time. Right, straighten it. Forks tweaked, bars low to the right, straighten. Do I triple tree or anything? What I do on bikes that come in who hit a curb or something like that, or they went down, find something that is immovable. Like we have a nice huge green trash can out front that does not move when you hit it, and make sure your fender's not in the way. And let's say you're going down the road, right, and your handlebars are to the right, but you're still going straight. You want to counter hit that, all right? So if you turn to the right, you want to counter it with a left turn. So that's what I do. I go up to something that's immovable, give it one good hit. And I'll do it and I'll ride it and I'll see how straight it is. If I need to make an adjustment, if I went too far, opposite, and then that's a quick way to do it, honestly. If you were in a wreck or you dropped the bike or something like that. And there's like serious damage, and that's not gonna fix it, but that's a really quick way to straighten everything back out. A couple of you guys asked questions and I missed it. But if I don't get to your question here, motorcyclemd.com. I have a Ask MD drop down. It says YouTube Live Q&A, and you can fill out something there. Float bowl is leaking a bit. Should I get a bigger jet kit while the carbs are apart? Mostly stock. No. No, you should not get a bigger jet kit. It's going to give you more issues than what you would want. So if you have a stock air filter, stock pipes, or punched pipes, or even slightly modified, I don't suggest jet kits. I'm anti-jet kit. If you want to get a little bit better throttle response or something like that, there's simple techniques that you can do as far as just shimming the main. I have all those videos here actually. Check out my video on carburetor tuning, idle, mid-range, and high RPM. And my wife's. And that will give you tons of good information. Hold on, my wife's sending me questions so I can read them. Also, some really cool stuff from the last weeks. I can't believe it's already been this is episode 2. It's crazy. I feel like Monday was just yesterday or today. But last Monday, I already got responses back from the people who we were able to talk with and help. And they're like super pumped about their bikes being good from some of the tips. So that's really encouraging to hear. I got emails almost the next day like, hey man, I listened to what you said and it totally worked. So that's super encouraging. So let's see. My wife's helping me out and she's being awesome right now. She's sending me questions from you guys. So Mauro Rubio. Hi Cody, I'm from Chile. I had to change my chain on a 2014 CBR, and I was wondering if you have to replace the sprockets too. They look in good shape, not bent at all. Great question. Great question. Hopefully you guys can still hear me, but ideally you want to do chain and sprockets together because the chain and the sprocket wear together. Alright, but I have replaced chains on sprocket setups that were I'm actually about to do one literally tomorrow. The sprockets look amazing. The sprockets look brand new. But the chain is completely stretched out. Like, I don't know what happened. If someone put the wrong chain on there or something like that, then that might have been what happened. But if the sprockets look good, check out the rear and the front. And if you don't see any teeth starting to turn, if you don't see big loops in between each teeth, the teeth don't look like shark teeth, like super sharp, I would replace the chain and sprockets together. And when I meant by chain stretching, I didn't really mean to say that, because in all actuality, the chains are not stretching like what you would think a rubber band does. It's just wearing longer. So the rollers in between are there's now gapping. So you have a roller and you have a pin going through it. Instead of it being a nice tight fit, it starts to open up, and then there's more and more play in that chain, and that's what causes it to stretch. So if the sprockets look good, long story short, the sprockets look good, you can replace the chain. I've done it before. They used to do it all the time on older bikes that had standard chains. The chains would be junk before the sprockets were bad. So I got another question from Fibro Boy. I know this may be the incorrect channel, but my wife rides a 2002 CBR 600. It's not the wrong channel because I do Honda stuff. So you're in the right place, bro. It feels like it's lacking in acceleration. We've tried gearing. There could be a possible... I can't see because there's arrows in the way. Try gearing. Could there be a possible difference? Lacking acceleration. So the F, is that it? The F, that should be a carbureted model. 02F. Give me a second. CBR 600F 2002. Let's see if Google. There's so many bikes, man. I'm trying to get if that's the F4i or not. If that's fuel injected. I think that's the carbureted model. If it's the carbureted model, correct me if I'm wrong, then you probably have a carburation issue, man. Very, very finicky. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong up there, as far as diaphragms, vacuum slide diaphragms. If it's fuel injected or if it's carbureted, because I believe those also had fuel pumps too. Check to see what the fuel pump's condition is, because a lot of times with a bike that old, which is now 15 years old, believe it or not, the fuel pump, people will throw an aftermarket fuel pump in those. That's the biggest thing that I replace on sport bikes are fuel pumps. And the fuel pumps will slowly decrease the amount of volume that they can put out at high RPM. So if you're talking about an acceleration issue at high RPM or something like that, then a fuel pump could not be pumping out enough volume for the bike to respond correctly. People put like Amazon fuel pumps are like $9. I got a bucket full of them because they're junk. Seriously, I know the Honda one's like $190 or $212 or whatever, but it's worth it because it lasted the bike a certain amount of time, a lot longer than the Amazon pumps do. But usually high RPM acceleration issues, like on 1100s, on some 750s, on a lot of the sport bikes, fuel pump problem. Usually it's fuel pump problem, and there is a test for that, but it would take me forever to explain it. Alright, let's see if I got any more questions. Alright, to straighten tweaked forks, I've already answered that. Roland, the 82 CB450 to straighten tweaked forks, do I loosen the bolts on the top triple tree clamp as well as everything south? To straighten a tweaked fork, it all depends on what you mean by tweaked, man. Like, is the front end crooked? I thought I already talked about this, but is the front end crooked? Your handlebars crooked, or is the fork bent? Because if the fork's tweaked or bent, then there's no fixing that besides like a hydraulic press or something like that. But Roland, if you watch this video again and you're thinking and your idea of it being tweaked is what I discussed earlier, then that's what you got to do. You got to bump it up against something to straighten that front end out. You don't need to loosen all that stuff up. You can just simply just hit it against something that's immobile, and you can bring it right back into where it should be. All right, so let's see. My coffee's cold. That's not good. But any more questions? I'll probably do this about maybe 5 more minutes, unless I get a big influx of questions that you guys have. Again, if it's your first time here, first time seeing this, motorcyclemd.com, and fill out a questionnaire, and you may find your question on here to help a lot of people out. Do you think the 750cc can be used to tour? Honestly, man, I'm about 147, 150 pounds soaking wet. I am a skinny dude. The 750, to me, yes, babe, I need more questions, because I don't see them on here. The 750 to me, the suspension is extremely stiff. For people who weigh more than me, which is probably about 90% of America, the suspension is not stiff for them. I don't like the seats. I think the seat tilts your pelvis forward because of the really slow drop down to the front. What I did was I took the cover off of mine and I shaved the back part so my butt would kind of sit it in my, and then that took my pelvis and kind of rocked it back into the seat, made it a lot more comfortable. I have long legs. I had to put extensions on those. I had an 05, but I would say an 1100, man, because at 1100 you can get up and get out of the way if you need to. as far as like a cruiser bike goes, the VTX 1300, something like that. But I've seen people travel. I mean, there's a 750 that's coming in, I think tomorrow, like 120,000 miles on it, man, and it's an older one. I'm talking like 02, 03. So it can be used, man. It just all depends. It really all depends. So my wife is sending me more questions. From Lewis, hey Cody, I think I drilled too far into the pilot screw on my CEF 230F. I imagine you meant CRF. What is the best action to take? Is the carb ruined? Without looking at it, I don't know. If you can get that mixture screw out, then you're in good luck. If you drilled, I mean, just slam right through that mixture screw, yeah, I would say it's pretty much toast, man. Because to be able to re-tap that hole, even if you drill all the junk out of it and re-tap that, I mean, you gotta have so much grace and luck on your side, which I'm sure you do, to get that out cleanly, man. So I would just look for a new carb. Unfortunately, I've seen people do that before, or they drill through the wrong cap, the wrong, well, it's not fun. So if you can get that mixer screw out, then good on you, and the carb is probably good. You might want to find a new mixer screw, of course, but if you ram that drill bit in there, then I would just look for a used one, man, or buy an awesome smooth bore Makuni and soup that jank up, you know what I mean? So my wife sent me some more questions. I still have an idling issue without a little choke. If I turn the choke off, bike shuts right down. I've cleaned the tank and the carb's out, but it won't idle. I didn't see what kind of bike that was. 81, maybe, what do you know, 81 650C. If it only runs with the choke on, you have, thanks Wombat. If you run with the choke, if it only runs with the choke on, you have a lean issue. Okay? As soon as you turn the choke off and the bike shuts off, there's either a vacuum leak, it's more than likely something to do with the carbs. It's too lean. Remember that choke richens things up, either whether it's an enrichener valve or it's a butterfly plate. It richens it up. So you're getting the bike warm on choke and you're shutting it off and it just shuts off. Either your idle's too low or you have a clogging problem in the carburetor. I know you said that you clean the carbs, but I don't know what you mean by cleaning the carbs, man. I've heard people come in here all the time and tell me that they clean the carbs out, and I'm like, look, man, I'm telling you, you got a carburetor issue. Let me clean them. Or how are you cleaning? Like, oh, I just sprayed it down the best I could. I'm like, well, the best you could is not good enough. So there's tunnels all throughout that idle circuit, man. Transfer ports, mixture ports, choke circuits, slow speed circuits. If you are not 100% sure that those tunnels inside the carbs, that they drill straight into the carb, just because your idle jet's clean does not mean your intake track or your idle track is clean in the carb, man. So hit it with starter fluid. I mean, choke's already telling me that it's too lean. But if it's running and you can hit the air box with some starter fluid and it kicks up, then it's surefire lean. Carbs are dirty. My wife is sending me a plethora of questions. 40 minutes in, we'll keep going. I can talk motorcycles with you guys all night, man. I'll tell you what. Alright, so let's see. Paul, stock piston rings are impossible to find on an 84 VT700. I don't doubt that one bit, man. The 80s are a very, very hard year to find parts for. I actually thoroughly dislike the 80s for bikes. No disrespect to any of you guys. I dislike it because so many models came out that were in like 1 or 2 years, 3 or 4 years, and Honda's not obligated to make parts anywhere past 10 years, but they still do. So The 80s bikes are extremely hard to find parts for, man. It was like a huge experimental phase for Honda with the 80s. A lot of parts, even aftermarket companies won't make them because it was like, yeah, they made that in 82 and 83, but that's it. There's no margin there for us to make parts for. So I don't doubt that one bit, man, that they are hard to find. I'm sorry, they are made of unobtainium, but it's a really tough decade. Should I go back to the stock rings? I would make sure there's some machining measurements you need to do. If you take the cylinder, obviously you have the maybe you have the motor apart, but if the cylinder's where you can see it, check out how to measure ring end gap. I'm sure you can Google it. I don't have a video for it, but ring end gap on your piston rings, and you need to make sure that that's in spec before you know which ones you're going to use. That's my best answer. Sorry. Let's see if we got any more questions. My wife's just sending me mad screenshots of I love it. It's awesome. Ace, would you repair a cracked carb on an 05 Sportster 883 low? No. No. That sounds awful. I would not. I would find a new one, honestly. I mean, you can try JB welding it, but it all depends on where it cracked at, man. And like, you know, like you don't want that crap entering the cylinder. Like if there's any kind of piece of metal or anything from it cracking or shearing or whatever it did, the vibrations, whatever, you don't want that entering the cylinder, man. Like that's, I had a CH80 two-stroke scooter, and his motor's toast. Reason being, the front flange of his carb, I don't know how. I do not know how to this day, but it was wearing away, like literally wearing down, and metal was shooting inside the motor. I ain't JB welding that. Ain't nobody JB welding that. So I would just find a new one, man. I'd find a new one. It's not worth it. And then, you know, someone else, when you go to sell the bike, someone else has got to deal with your JB Weld stuff. I would hate that. I already got that one from Daniel. Let's see. From Mr. Gervils, this may be a kind of deep question, or not deep, but a long answer. I'm gonna try not to. It could be many things. So he says he has an 82 Honda Magna 750, had it running well for about a day, synced up the carbs with a Motion Pro tool. It seems like it just wants to run on 2 cylinders, and I'm getting some white smoke. That could be a lot of things, man. That's like 10 different things pop into my head. I don't understand the white smoke, so that could be something that's bad, coolant, something like that, a bad head gasket. I'm not sure how well the carbs were cleaned. I'm not sure if it was running great before you synced it, and you're syncing it to try to solve a problem. I'm not sure. It was running well for about a day, so it all depends on what you did for that, you know. Email me, alright? Give me some more feedback about what took place, Gervils, and I'll try to answer that maybe in the next question. That's a loaded question, though. And I'll talk you guys' ear off. So, we'll probably do this for about maybe 10 more minutes. This is a long live. Simplex said, would you upgrade to LEDs? Would an upgrade to LEDs be recommended to extend the life of an alternator on an older 70s bike? Honestly, man, I haven't been around long enough to know the long-term effects of an LED system on a 70s bike. What I do know is that would take a lot of load off of the alternator. Is having an LED system. Fundamentally, there's not that much power being drawn with LEDs as compared to the older wattage stuff. So that would help it charge the battery more if your regulator is working correctly and stuff like that. So that could be beneficial, absolutely. I plan on doing that on my CL450. So I would say that is a pro and not a con. Okay. Mario asked a personal question. Cody, a personal question. Where did you study? How long have you been working in Honda? Great question, man. I started working on motors and stuff like that for cars and stuff when I was young. Probably like 15, 16 when I first got my license. I was all about it. I went and studied at MMI. I'm sure you guys know where that is, or what that is. It's a Motorcycle Mechanic Institute. I went to the Orlando, Florida campus. I did the best I could with Honda there, and got the highest certification that I could get before I left, and then the rest of it was all shop experience. So I am super blessed to work at Honda of Norfolk in Norfolk, Virginia, with two amazing technicians who have been in the same location, their same lift, their same spot since around 1967. So 50 years of experience from someone who is willing to teach you can go a long way as far as mentorship goes. So I was more certified coming into this place than anybody here, but that does not equate to the knowledge that I've gained from these guys. I'm super fascinated by the old vintage stuff. I love it. I think it should never die out as compared to the newer electronic stuff. So gaining knowledge from them and asking tons of questions. I knew a lot coming into it, you know, but when it comes to field experience, man, you just can't top it. So I've been working here for, I would say, almost 6 or 7 years now. So total of probably about 10 years of working on motorcycles, Honda specifically. I've worked with a bunch of different models, but that's a cool question. So thanks for asking that. So I'll wrap this up here soon when I want. Let's see. Maddie D asks, how do you recommend to clean the little tiny pilot holes coming into the venturi of the carb? Great question. For those of you who don't know, I am actually building an encyclopedia for all carb cleans when it comes to Hondas. Twins, singles, inline fours. I'm literally, I've been recording all of my cleans to show you guys how to do them professionally. And I'll have that readily available hopefully very soon. Editing takes a long time. But to answer your question, the best trick that I have found to get a general clean going is very simple. Alright, you find a wire brush like this, often used to clean grills. They're steel, and take your needle nose pliers and literally rip out one little strand of this. Typically, the ones that I have measure out to be around 32 to 35, or 0.32 to 0.35 millimeters. Okay, and that can get inside almost any jet, besides unless you have like a scooter or something like that where they use like 32s. Then you're like press fitting a thing in there, and then that won't work. Rip one of those out, straighten it out the best you can, and put it into like either a pair of needle nose pliers like these. These are great tips, by the way. I hope you try this. Needle nose pliers, you can clean jets out with them. Also, they make little hand drills. Tighten it into the hand drill and just run it inside of the jets that you can't remove, the front orifices, that kind of stuff. But really, the great trick is contact cleaner, brake contact cleaner, to spray into it, and then compressed air to hit it out. Those are two things I feel like set a lot of carb cleans apart. Are those three things. So good question. Do you watch MotoGP? Kyle, I thoroughly wish I could watch MotoGP, but I don't get that channel on my TV. So I would love to watch it. I would love to watch the dirt track racing that's been going on. There's supposedly this awesome chick who's crushing it for Honda, but I don't have the channel, so yeah. All right, one more question. Let's see. Actually, no. Let's just wrap that up. All right. So that was a great question about the carb stuff. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for almost an hour. You guys are nuts. But like I said, I could talk motorcycles with you guys all day. But if questions did not get answered, so on and so forth, go to my website, motorcyclemd.com. There's a Ask MD tab, drop down, it says YouTube Live Q&A, and it gives me tons of information for you to fill out, super simple, and that way when it comes to the email, I can pick and choose which ones I feel like will be super valuable. You never know when your question will be answered. Also, huge update, the t-shirts that I sent out to the subscribers, asking for feedback. If you're not subscribed, so obviously subscribe to the YouTube channel, but more importantly, subscribe to my email list on my website. That way we can talk and you're in constant conversation with all my other followers on there. But I sent out an email about a shirt design, 2 different colors, sizes, asked people for sizes and stuff like that. Well, those are now in production. I'm super pumped about it. So I would say in about 2 weeks I should have a box of Motorcycle MD t-shirts for you guys to purchase, and they're awesome. I'm super pumped. They're not cheap, they're soft, and they are worth wearing. And it'd be awesome if you guys wanted to support me that way. All that stuff that I'm able to buy, I actually just ordered a brand new wireless mic so that I can give you guys more value on stuff like this with the phone. And then that all comes from the generous donations from you guys. So thank you guys so much for supporting me that way as well on the website. Donations are awesome and allows me to build better content for you guys to watch. So I'll let you guys know when the t-shirts come out. Every Monday, 8:30 to 9 o'clock, 9:30ish, however long I want to take it, live Q&A. All right? Send your questions so we can build more content, help everybody out. Thank you guys. So I'll ship to wherever you want, Daniel. Honestly, I'll let you know how much the shipping costs. I got guys in Australia, I got guys in Japan, and all different places that want shirts. So I'm gonna do my best, man. I only got 48, so we'll be limited stock. We'll see how well they sell. I got a lot of people who want them though, so if it does well, I'll order more, obviously. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me. Again, my heart goes out to everyone who was in that awful event that took place in Los Angeles. Love you, praying for you. My heart was super heavy today for that. So anybody who knows someone, family member, whatever, very sorry for that cowardless act. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Cody from Motorcycle MD, bringing you guys quality tips and trips, hopefully answering some questions. And I'll see you Las Vegas. I'm sorry. I said it earlier. Later.